The interaction between the United States and China seems to have increased significantly recently. Biden and Xi will be meeting before the end of this year. Will this virtual meeting change the US-China relationship that has been fallen to a freezing point in recent years? Will there be a major change in the future US-China relationship? Today we'll discuss this issue a bit more. In the last episode, we can clearly see from the data that after President Trump implemented the first phase of the trade war, the United States imported more extensively and in larger quantities from countries other than China. On the contrary, China's imports from the United States are increasing. As of March this year, the trade deficit between the two sides had shrunk by 1/3, compared to the most serious of over $400 billion in 2018. This shows that trade between the United States and China is gradually becoming more balanced. It can be expected in the future that the influence of economic and trade relations between the two countries will be weaker than it is now. So what will determine the direction of US-China relations in the future? From the perspective of economy and trade, politics, and military affairs, we can exclude economy and trade for now. But will it be politics? It is also a no. The political system of China and the United States are completely different. This is a consensus for a long time. China is a communist autocratic system which belongs to totalitarianism, and the US is a democratic system. Once upon a time, the United States had a beautiful illusion that once it opened the door to China, it would change the authoritarian regime through market-oriented economic influence. But that has now proved to be just fiction, an unrealistic dream or fantasy. Looking back at the Sino-US relations in the past 20 years, the regime's persecution of the people, such as the June 4 Tiananmen massacre incident, was invisible to the then-President Bush. So the political system difference was not the fundamental factor affecting the relationship between the two sides. So what is it then? It is actually the military factor. As we mentioned in our previous programs, the constant genes of communism are to prove the superiority of its system, and their ultimate goal has always been to eliminate capitalism, as written in its Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. Then when the communist totalitarianism grows bigger and stronger, and when it believes that its strength cannot be provoked, and it has the ability to challenge or even eliminate the US, a military confrontation between the two will emerge and lead to confrontation. We can learn from history. The United States and the former Soviet Union also had a long-term military confrontation state, which could be roughly divided into 4 stages or 4 forms. One is direct military encounters. After the surrender of the German Nazis, the United States and the Soviet Union changed from allies to Cold War opponents overnight. At Berlin, they had 3 face-off, hence the Berlin crisis. And the second stage was when the communist regime launched wars towards other countries, such as the Korean War and the Vietnam War. The United States intervened, and large-scale ground and air battles broke out between the two sides. And the third was that the communist countries threatened the United States directly. And the nuclear threat was the most critical one. In the era of the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Soviet Union deployed its short-range missiles with nuclear warheads in Cuba, which signals they could start a nuclear attack on the United States at any time. Missiles back then could only fly a few hundred kilometers of distance, which from Cuba could cover the whole of Florida. And finally, under the pressure from the United States, the Soviet Union withdrew its nuclear weapons. And in this crisis, both sides realized that if they were not handled properly, a nuclear war could break out. And the Soviet Union did not want to subdue the party and the country with its own hands. Since then, the United States and the Soviet Union had never been in such a short-handed combat position. After that, the fourth phase began. That is, the two sides entered a state of nuclear war preparation and defense against nuclear attacks, until the Soviet Union fell. Among these 4 stages or forms, the second and the third were the most important, Because of the emergence of nuclear weapons, the two sides could no longer directly fight as before. Once the guns go off and they enter a hot war, but both sides hold a large number of nuclear weapons which are absolutely enough to destroy the other side with a nuclear attack. Using the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union to compare the relationship between the Chinese government and the United States today, it is clear that both sides have entered into the fourth stage, secretly competing in armaments, expanding their forces, upgrading their weapons, and deterring each other in nuclear weapons. In the 21st century today, nuclear missiles can fly more than 10,000 kilometers. They don't need to be placed at the gate of the United States like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Moreover, the Chinese Beidou satellite navigation system is also on the market. Communist China is frequently reclaiming and building islands in the South China Sea. Local threats are increasing day by day. In April this year, the Chinese Communist Party's new nuclear submarine entered its formation in Shanya. The party official media said the submarine-based intercontinental missile on the nuclear submarine can strike anywhere in the United States from the South China Sea. The emblem of the new nuclear submarine was also announced, showing that a nuclear missile was being launched from the South China Sea to North America. Is this a new version of the Cuban Missile Crisis? In this way, the US frequent appeals for not wanting to conflict are very easy to understand, and by looking at the smoke bombs on the surface, this is not enough to understand the fundamentals of Sino-US relations. Whether in economics, trade, or politics, for the time being, there are secret confrontations, both countries trying to maintain a superficial harmony. However, with the change of the world structure, the reshuffle of economics and trade, the permanent political opposition between the West free world and the communist totalitarian, coupled with the mutual restraint on the military, Sino-US relations will inevitably end up in the confrontation step, and it will be getting worse, and it is difficult to turn back. So in these two episodes, starting from the various dazzling statements between China and the United States, we interpret the two major moves of the Biden administration towards China, the new trade relations approach and the meeting between Sullivan and Yang Jiechi. It seems that the United States is showing its favor to the Chinese government. That's how the Chinese officials also feel. And in fact, if we dig deeper, we'll find that these are all smoke bombs from the characteristics of Biden's diplomacy. We see that the Biden and Trump administrations are fundamentally different in their treatment of the communist China. Biden pays attention to details, should I say, with the friendly etiquette on the surface, but it hides the deep intentions of confrontation. Biden is dealing with the Chinese government using a dragging trick. He uses a circuitous approach. This is because it is hidden under his so-called tolerance attitude of accepting world diversity and accepting multilateralism. It is actually from his unclear understanding of the communism. On the other hand, President Trump has a clear and profound understanding about it, and he would not be muddle-headed. He would go straight to the weak point of the communism. This is a faster, more direct and effective way. In fact, the leftists' tolerance and ethnic diversity cannot be generalized to all people and things. When it rises to the choice between the right and wrong, it is completely different. In the final analysis, the problem has returned to the recognition of communism. Our program has always been paying more attention to exploring this aspect because I, like you, are constantly exploring how to truly see communist China from multiple perspectives. The Chinese government, after all, for the world, is the most need-to-understand regime. If you want to know more about this, just subscribe and let's explore it together. To sum up, as for future, the economic and trade links between China and the United States may gradually weaken. And as the world understands the communist regime better, political opposition may become prominent, which will ultimately be steering the Sino-US relations. And it is almost certain that China and the United States will be unavoidably heading for the military confrontation. From the three most important aspects of politics, economics and trade and military, what do you think will really determine and affect US-China relations in the long run? Let me know in the comment below. Okay, thank you for watching Beyond the News. I'm Faye. Please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell. See you next time.